Hi everyone. So this is my latest conference paper, the one I presented in Simon Fraser University in Vancouver just 2 months ago or so. So that was a conference paper called Finance Art, a case study of the financial art installation Bahia-Benin Slavery Finance Exchanges Network. And really, it was kind of coming full circle with the first presentation, first conference paper I presented in Dublin 7 years ago or 6 years ago on the same series at the beginning of that cycle, I suppose, and how this has evolved and is still evolving right now as I'm still working on this project. So my name is Stephanie Dossou. I am the co-founder of the Finance Art Institute. I hold a PhD in computer science from Trinity College, Dublin. My research is a practice-based research on finance art, which refers to art production using global finance as its medium. Finance art focuses on how artists use global finance techniques, tools, technology, innovation, and methods as their medium to produce artworks that reveal the hidden layers of the complex systems that form global finance and the underlying financialization process, and how they engage their audience with these often esoteric and elitist systemic fields, inviting the questioning of financial practices. Finance art is a term I have come up with, which is modeled on the term bioart, while bioart appropriates the techniques and methods of biotechnologies to remap that territory. Finance art appropriates the methods and techniques of finance to remap the territory of finance and our relationship to it. This research comes out of the experience and knowledge I have built and reflected upon over the last 25 years, working in finance and technology and bringing it to my artistic practice. Deleuze writes that the vocation of all non-representational art is to make visible or perceptible forces that would otherwise remain invisible. Finance art operates in this manner. Within finance, my research focuses on global finance. In the case of my artwork series Bahia-Benin, I am interested in the financial markets which were in place during the slavery trade between the Bight of Benin and Bahia in Brazil, where the main commodity was human beings. So, what is a market? Traditionally, it's a physical location where people meet to exchange goods, then money or pieces of paper. Then paper became an entry on a computer. This is the process of dematerialization of finance, which intensified in the 1980s and still is now. Since I have arrived 5 years ago, 5 days ago, so that was in Vancouver. Sorry, that was within the context of the conference paper and the presentation. I haven't seen a coin or a note. And actually, very often when I travel in countries with different currency for mine, or even with the same currency, I just don't use paper money or coins anymore. Since the 1980s, with the deregulations introduced mainly by Reagan in the US and Thatcher in the UK, financial innovation has expanded and flourished with the creation of new financial products, mostly derivatives and based on securitization processes. Debraided financial innovation that brought us to the 2008 financial crisis. This is a photomontage by Andreas Gursky. It's in the Tate Modern Museum in London and is a representation of capitalism in the 90s, which is really an extension of our ideas of traders and financial markets in the 80s. So now things have changed a lot. These buildings have been deserted. Most of these markets don't exist in physical locations anymore. They're all virtual and take place on farms of servers. One of the main topic of investigation of finance art is the questioning of systems of values in financial networks and other transactional processes in the context of the intense financialization of life, where the only value taken into consideration is the monetary value. I've used Felix Guattari's three ecologies aesthetic paradigm to rebalance it and integrate the ecological, social, and mental ecologies in my model. Guattari's aesthetics paradigm, which he discusses in the three ecologies, and the diagrammatic schizoanalytic quadrangle meta model, which he covers in schizoanalytic cartographies, has helped me analyze the operations of finance art as a genre and its practices, as well as individual artworks, including my own. This is the working diagrammatic schizoanalytic quadrangle meta model I have constructed for finance art to support its analysis and construct this universe. These are few examples of finance artworks. This is a photo of my installation called The Glitter of a Flash Crash, which is based on a series of data visualizations animations that I have created using a data set of second data for several stocks, which are part of the Dow Jones Industrial Average Index during the flash crash, which happened on the 6th of May 2010 at 2:45 p.m. During this flash crash, the US stock markets plunged and recovered by 6% in 3 minutes. Flash crashes are symptoms of malfunctions in global financial markets. The ethical recommender, which is another one of my artworks, is inspired by some of the financial information and recommendation services that Bloomberg provides to its clients in the financial industry. The ethical recommender appropriates some of these techniques, but with different parameters and intent. Its aim is not to recommend buying or selling financial instruments based on their profit or loss making potential, but to rate and evaluate them based on non profit based criteria, based on social, ecological, and mental impact, in line with Guattari's ecosophies, as well as some of the principles of sustainable finance, such as the ESG and the Donut Economics Model by Kate Raworth. SD Coin and the blockchain is based on cryptocurrencies, technology, and associated techniques, including the underlying blockchain. The finance, this finance artwork appropriates the functions of currency and money creation through the implementation of a cryptocurrency, SD Coin, and ledger operations through blockchain technologies and smart contracts, on the Ethereum platform. It also creates a financial supply chain platform which implements the securitization of SD coin cryptocurrency based digital assets into tradable securities, which can be traded on a crypto product exchange platform and is fully transparent. Other artist finance artworks include Mark Lombardi's pencil and pen on paper, amazingly beautiful diagrams which used the information he was collecting from reputable newspapers to reveal connections between entities appropriating the practices of fraud and money laundering investigators, which are now done through information system and AI, such as graph databases. This is another example of finance artworks by the French art collective RYBN, whose interventions focus on financial markets as well. They have created an algo trader robot in 2008 that is trading the 8,279 euros that the French Ministry of Culture have given them as part of an art grant. This bot is called ADM8. They also did many more projects, many more artworks based on some creative algorithms which are trading in a sandbox situation and few other interventions still critical of the practice of algorithmic trading. So Bahia-Benin series are a work in progress still and are still evolving as I haven't shown them yet as it has been a process of experimentation, but I'm planning to reveal them by the end of this year through an NFTs collectible website that I am currently working on. So I'm focusing here on my process. I started this process consciously in 2015 when I first traveled to San Salvador de Bahia in Brazil. But in some ways, it started nearly 10 years prior during a trip throughout Benin to visit my family there. It is fully based on a personal journey which goes back as far as my ancestor, Dehuyi, who was the king of Porto Novo, who ordered the first ship of slaves to leave the Porto Novo, as I have found out through this research. One of his sons, my ancestor, was exiled to a place north of Lake Nokwe, le Quartier des Princes, besides the village of Ganvier, which was built on the lake by people who had managed to escape from being captured for slavery. Ganvier is actually where my grandmother was from. Bahia-Benin is a series of artworks which explore the financial market networks in place between the Bight of Benin and San Salvador da Bahia de Todos os Santos in Brazil from the 16th until the 19th centuries. Human beings were the main market commodity alongside tobacco, cacao, sugarcane, and diamonds. This series integrates financial transactional data collected as part of these financial exchanges accounts ledgers kept at the time, as well as the cultural transfers and becomings that occurred as byproducts still prevalent in Bahia's culture now. These include ritualistic practices such as voodoo in Africa or candomblé in Bahia, as well as foods such as amioa in Benin and moqueca in Bahia, music, musical instruments, and dance. This piece attempts to give perspectives on the commerce and financial networks of slavery with the intent of orchestrating a number of functions, including the creation of views, by drawing new maps and revealing its multiplicities. One component of this process is to use financial technology tools to reveal and expose the cruel and inhuman side of finance when only monetary value is taken into consideration. The paradigm of financialization, where finance is the master within the economy, as Per Hansen describes. The second component of my process is to focus on all the human byproducts, elements which are not recorded in the ledgers, but were brought through the people's culture, humanness, languages, religions, cooking recipes, and any other practices, and how they decolonized the country of destination. I have been using the Voyage database, which records slaving expeditions between 1514 and 1866, with various information about the vessels, including the trading routes, the captain's name, the year, the number of slaves. I have selected the trading route where the principal region of slave purchase is the Bight of Benin and the landing region is Bahia. I have been producing diagrams and sketching data visualization of the relevant data in this database. I have also been experimenting with other methods used in finance, such as price modeling based on volume, bid ask decision trees based on characteristics, and neural networks. In similar ways, I would in some of my previous education and jobs in financial trading. This process creates and builds the levels of abstraction between the human beings that are being treated as commodities and the financial transactions, which are only numbers that can be manipulated through stocks and bonds, which can be sold or bought. Back in Europe at the time, people were holding stocks for and were investing in those financial investments, I suppose, of to support that trade and get benefit from the profits made. The current practices in finance take this process further by using derivatives and securitization based innovative techniques based on statistics, AI, and data modeling, which allow the human to fully disconnect their actions from their impact on the underlying immediate reality through multiple levels of abstraction. The second part of this process is to bring it back to human level by integrating the cultural byproducts which are unintentionally exchanged as part of the main intentional financial transactions. The Yoruba language, the religion of Voodoo or Candomblé, with all its divinities and the Vodun. I took these photos in the Royal Palace of Porto Novo in Benin, where some of my ancestors were rulers, as I mentioned earlier, and in Ouida, where my father was born. These are photos of La Porte du Non-Retour, or the Door of No Return, in Ouida, in Benin. There were four forts: French, English, Portuguese, and Dutch. Slaves walked on the jetty and wood-board boats to the Americas from there. Some would arrive in San Salvador and disembark on this fort. I took these photos when I traveled to Salvador in Bahia. The beautiful buildings and architecture of the first Brazilian capital shows the monetary profitability of the trade. The slave trade was considered a very respectable commerce at the time and on both sides of the trade. Kings of Abomey sent ambassadors to Bahia to negotiate with Brazilians. Kings of Benin from Abomey and Porto Novo were active parties in this trade, and financial markets were established in Ouida, Porto Novo, and Grand Popo. Slave trading between Bahia and the Bight of Benin was largely bilateral, as most Brazilian traders avoided Portugal to negotiate directly with Benin. Slaves were usually exchanged against tobacco. Some freed slaves, and descendants of slaves made the journey back and established themselves in Benin. This is a typical Brazilian house, which was built in Porto Novo by a former slave. The current phase of my process is the creation of an NFTs collectible website where my experimentations and artworks are being recorded on a new kind of ledger on an immutable blockchain and includes the human and cultural transactions. By doing so, removing the levels of abstractions between them, providing a view based on complexity and multiplicities. The main operation of this series is to facilitate the travel between the levels of abstractions which are put in place between modern finance and the impact it has on immediate reality. It attempts to bring back the immaterial into the material realm. A financial transaction is never just a financial transaction. So thank you. And as I mentioned in other conference papers I have recorded over the last few weeks, all these artworks are being currently put into an online exhibition, and this will be announced on our website, thefinanceartinstitute.org. So thank you for listening and for having an interest in finance art. Thank you. Bye.